And tonight, as the vetting continues, we show you what happens when the teleprompters go dark. Now, these are the critical moments when the president goes off script and offers Americans a rare glimpse into the real Obama. Now, it happened this week when he spoke off the cuff about the Supreme Court. And then last week, another impromptu exchange was caught on tape between the Anointed One and the president of Russia. Watch this.
This is my last election. Yeah, after my election, I have more flexibility. Yeah, I understand. I transmit this information to Vladimir and understand.
Yes, more flexibility after my election. Don't worry. Now, yesterday in Washington, Republican frontrunner Mitt Romney reacted to that whisper and called on all Americans to pay attention to these unscripted moments. Take a look.
President Obama's comments to President Medvedev are deeply troubling. That incident calls his candor into serious question. He doesn't want to share his real plans before the election, either with the public or with the press. By flexibility, he means that what the American public doesn't know won't hurt him. His intent is on hiding. You and I are going to have to do the seeking.
And that's exactly what we are doing here on Hannity. We are seeking to uncover the truth about this president as we continue to vet him. Joining me tonight for the very latest installment of The Real Obama, Fox News contributors Liz Cheney and Lanny Davis. All right, let's start, Liz, with national security. You heard what the president just said there about President Medvedev. Hey, I can help you after the election. Shh. Right. But he also said this about our closest ally and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Sarkozy says, the president of France goes, I cannot bear Netanyahu. He's a liar. You're fed up with him. I have to deal with him, every day, even more often than you, once a week, he went on to say. What does that tell us about him?
Well, I think, if you look first at the Medvedev comments, it's really important to remember what he was talking about. He was talking about missile defense, talking about a shield to protect the United States, to protect our allies from rogue missiles. And so, it's not just that he's trying to hide his intent from the American people until after the election, but he's telling an adversary, the Russian government, which works against us at every turn, that he will be flexible on a matter of the national security of the United States. Yeah. And that's frankly what's so unprecedented about this, that he's willing to negotiate, he's willing to show flexibility on the one issue no American president should ever show flexibility on.
Yeah, and by the way, Liz, I want to know, how's your dad doing, by the way? I know...
Thank you, Sean.
Is he doing well?
He's doing really well. I mean, it's just it's tremendous. It's been miraculous. We're all feeling just incredibly grateful and blessed. And he's at home, and I would imagine he's probably watching right now. So you can give him a shout out.
Mr. Vice President, we're thinking about you. You've been in our prayers, and we hope you're out fishing really, really soon, because I know you like to fish with Liz. Lanny, I've known you a long time. If he's not willing to state what he wants to do publicly, and he's hiding this from the American people, there is an inherent fundamental dishonesty in that. Listen, I got an election to deal with here. I will transmit to Vladimir. Excuse me. And then saying, agreeing that Netanyahu's a liar. I got to deal with this guy every week.
First of all, I think there are embarrassing things, including this one, that are said when you don't realize you're on mic. And I'd like to say that Liz Cheney, although I've disagreed with your dad, I do hope he's well and pray for him and admire him, though I disagree with him. But I do remember your dad and my old fraternity brother, who I also am very close to, George W. Bush, when he was running, when they were off mic, described a newspaperman for the New York Times.
Adam Clymer.
Graphic, and I think that was both a funny and an off...
that's not national security.
No.
Right.
I hate to say this. I'm going to be blunt. I think it was true. Big time, all right? So
look, I think that the idea, and Liz is correct, it's a serious issue, and there may be a disagreement on this issue between us, showing flexibility about missile defense when we should be more concerned about Iran threatening us than Russia is
really
dealing
with the issue. Let me give you.
But that's the substantive issue that Liz was dealing with.
All right, now this goes back to the early in the campaign when the president was running for office, and he didn't know he's being recorded, but he's speaking to his rich elite friends in San Francisco, talking about those bitter people in Pennsylvania.
When you go into some of these small towns in Pennsylvania, a lot like a lot of small towns in the Midwest. The jobs have been gone now for 25 years, and nothing's replaced them. And they've gone through the Clinton administration and the Bush administration, and each successive administration has said that somehow these communities are going to regenerate, and they have not. So it's not surprising then that they get better and they cling to guns or religion or antipathy towards people who aren't like them.
They get bitter, they cling to their guns, their religion, with antipathy towards those, Liz, that are not like them.
Yeah, I mean, look, Sean, this president is clearly clinging himself to an extremely radical agenda. And when you combine that ideology with this arrogance of power, and it's an arrogance in this case that, basically I think has convinced him, look, I can say what I really think in private when the mics aren't on, when I think the mics aren't on, and frankly hope that the American people will be willing to overlook it, or that his rhetoric in public is somehow so moving for all of us that we will ignore the fact that he really does believe that people are clinging to guns and God because they're desperate.
And
I think
let me go
dangerous.
to Lanny here. How are you going to spin this one?
First of all, I love listening to Liz, and wish I didn't have to disagree with her. But remember when Ronald Reagan was off mic in the studio and he said it's World War III, and he was having a good time, not realizing he was on mic.
That is not a good time.
But Lanny, your examples
at least
we begin bombing in 5
here.
minutes is not the same thing, Lanny.
Liz, I think that having been for Senator Clinton, we took advantage of that bitterness remark, and it wasn't off. He didn't realize he was on mic.
But it wasn't a joke. That's the difference.
But there's a likability factor to Barack Obama that is going to be tough for Mitt Romney, who isn't all that likable. It's what elected George Bush over Al Gore, and you're going to find Obama's high likability equation right now is going to be what is. All right,
let me go to one more. This is the president. If you dared to say the following, accuse the president. Now he's accumulated $5 trillion in debt in less than 4 years. Under the Bush administration, $4 trillion in new debt in 8 years. And this is what the president, then campaigning, said about the debt then.
The problem is that the way Bush has done it over the last 8 years is to take out a credit card from the Bank of China in the name of our children, driving up our national debt from $5 trillion for the first 42 presidents. Number 43 added $4 trillion by his lonesome, so that we now have over $9 trillion of debt that we are going to have to pay back. $30,000 for every man, woman, and child. That's irresponsible. It's unpatriotic.
$5 trillion in less than 4 years, more than President Bush in 8 years. If I called the president unpatriotic, what would you say to me, Lanny?
I think that was a horrible statement made by Barack Obama. And I think
by the way, on mic in this case,
the most important failure of Barack Obama, and I'm going to vote for him, but the failure is for him to address this $16 trillion debt that my children and grandchildren are going to have to pay. What he said about President Bush and credit cards was correct then. He's forgotten those words today, and he could lose the election on this issue alone, because Democrats like me, President Clinton Democrats, think the debt is a moral issue that he is ignoring, unfortunately, and shouldn't be.
All right, we are just, out of time. Liz, we want to send again our best regards to your dad. Glad we wish him a speedy recovery. And
thanks, Sean,
I want to go fishing with both of you. I'm inviting myself. I have no right to do that, but I'm going to offer my services.
You're welcome. And I just want to end by agreeing with what Lanny said, that on this issue of the debt and irresponsible spending, Barack Obama is likely to lose this election.
All right. Thank you both for being with us. And coming up, a Hannity